lot of people on the chat are just coming up.
Correct. But Karthik, the Zoom screen, whatever you are seeing here, is not being seen there.
Yeah, I'm only seeing the logo.
Logo, correct. It can't be. Hamfest India Organizing Committee should be visible.
Shankar, Ganesh, Gopal Madhavan has joined. Make him the co-host.
He's there.
I'm here.
Yeah,
Excellent,
okay, it's live.
excellent.
It's live on YouTube now.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are live on YouTube. Surya.
Yes, sir. I'm here.
Whoever is speaking, no, you may pin them. Let others switch off their video because on YouTube, let's say tomorrow, once the event starts, Madhukar is speaking, you pin only Madhukar video. If I am speaking, me, or if Omkar Nath is speaking, his video, kind of. Now the question is, if the guests are not there, can we start off with some?
Shankar, there's a big lag in audio on YouTube.
Huh?
There's a big lag in audio on YouTube.
How? That is exactly how there is a lag.
It will maybe delay. It will be 2 to 3 minutes in YouTube, whatever live.
Is my audio clear? Are you able to hear me, guys?
Excellent, sir, Gopal. Excellent. Loud and clear. 59+.
I am muting my audio.
Please.
And I will only unmute when I need to speak.
Correct.
Mr. Omkar ji, welcome to the group. Mr. Omkar ji, welcome to the group. Shankar, Mr. Omkar has joined.
Excellent. Most welcome, sir. Mr. Omkar ji, can you switch on your video and sir, kindly unmute your video and audio, sir.
Shankar, make him co-host.
Sorry?
Make him the co-host.
Good afternoon.
He has been. Mr. Prasanna, can you just switch off your video, please?
Madhu, Hotel Whiskey.
Yes, sir, Rajini ji.
He has joined now. Omkar ji, have you joined, sir? Yeah, he has joined now, just now. Okay, good.
Omkar ji, very good afternoon. Welcome, sir. Can you just unmute your camera and audio, please? Omkar ji, can you unmute, please?
Yes, sir. Can you hear, sir?
I can hear you, sir. Video also, sir.
I sent you a request, sir. You'll have to just accept the request to switch on the video.
The request has been sent.
Yeah. could hear his audio.
Okay, but that video is not coming, huh?
No, sir.
Oh, just connecting.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. No issues. Harish.
Nath sir, do you need any help? I am there, Hotel Rajni Mohan here.
Has to just unmute both audio and video.
This unmute is working, but this start video and this is not working, I think.
I think you have to select first the camera,
log
sir. Correct camera has to be selected. Then only it will, sir. Just check which camera is there. If there are multiple cameras.
Actually, I am using my brother's laptop. That is why it may be some.
In that case, just select the inbuilt camera or something will be there.
Okay, let me once again join this meeting. Okay.
Very good evening, fellow hams, OMs and YLs. Delighted to have you here as part of the Hamfest India 2021. While we wait for a couple of minutes for our guest, Shri Omkar Yadav, Assistant Wireless Advisor, WPC, Ministry of Communication. So we will wait for a couple of minutes and then we will start the program with your permission. Sir, is all okay, Omkar ji?
He's checking it from a different laptop, I think.
He says he has connected. Can you see him? Is he connected? On the WhatsApp, he said he is connected.
No.
Sir, another secondary request came in from his name. He's being joined. Let me just check his status. It just says joining.
I can see him here as participant, but not.
No, he's trying from one more login.
He's trying it from a secondary device, sir. His name is still present in the waiting list.
Can you hear me, sir?
Yes, sir, we can hear you.
Yes, sir. Your voice is audible.
But this video is not working.
So we can try one thing. From
Yeah,
my
yeah.
side, I can send in a request asking you to start your video.
Should I use my iPad for this one?
If the app is present, yes, sir, definitely. You can join in through your iPad.
1 minute, please.
Paralo. There you are, sir. Excellent. Can you unmute your audio also, sir?
Okay, sir.
Yeah,
Okay, thank you.
fantastic. So, shall we? Sarav, Madhu?
Okay. Shall we start?
Yeah.
Please go ahead, Shankar. Let's hear.
Yeah. Okay. Once again, very good evening to all of you. Sorry for the small delay of about 5 minutes
Sir, there is echo, I think.
from all of us here and the organizing committee of the Hamfest India 2021. Delighted to have you all across the country. I see almost about 80 participants from Tamil Nadu, about equal number from Karnataka, Maharashtra, Delhi, Tripura, West Bengal. Delighted to welcome a guest from Bangladesh also joining in. So as always, the tradition, let us start with a small invocation, and the genesis of this invocation, I'll certainly tell you slightly later on this. One second. I think it's essentially embarrassing. I think I should be made a host for me to share the screen. Mine is disabled. And whoever is Madhu, can you just host has disabled my screen sharing, it says. Karthik? Karthik? Karthik, are you there?
Since you made the Karthik as the host, it has gone to him.
Yeah, Karthik. Hold on, I'll just ask Karthik too.
I see him in the list.
Yeah, he's there. Maybe he's not.
Yeah.
Kindly
I
make
made
me
a
the host,
host.
please. Kindly make me the host so that I can share the screen.
Yes.
Done? Okay.
Sir, I have done.
Okay.
Okay.
One second, I'm not. don't know why I'm not seeing this. Okay.
Shreyo सकल जनानां श्रेयो भूयात् श्रेयो भूयात् श्रेयो भूयात् सकल
There it is. Once again, welcoming all of you with that invocation. Let there be no war, and let us share with everyone in this world. So, with that great renderation by Bombay Shri and Sudha Raghunathan and the whole group there, actually returned by the Kanchi Swami for the United Nations. If you, when Indira Gandhi requested him for an invocation at United Nations, the Swamiji wrote this, quite relevant even to this day. So once again, delighted to welcome you all. I'm your host, Shankar Prasad, Victor United to Sierra Papa Kilo. My QTH is Mysuru, and delighted to have my other committee members here, which I will be, during the course of this program, I would be introducing each one of them. And here in Mysuru, very sultry. It's been raining all through the yesterday. Temperature is just about 24 degrees Charlie here in the shack here. So with that, I request my other colleague of the organizing committee, Madhu, Victor United to Mike Uniform Delta, to propose a welcome to our chief guest and all of you hams all across this country. Over to you, Madhu.
Thank you, Shankar. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you all to this online session. This is organized as part of the Hamfest India 2021 scheduled for Mysuru. This particular event is to commemorate the completion of 100 years of amateur radio in India. As for our information, the first license was issued during 1921 to Shri Amarendra Chandra Guptu with the call sign, just the number 2 Juliet Kilo. Call sign was 2 Juliet Kilo. This 2-day session that we are conducting is part of the celebration of that event. On behalf of the organizing committee, I welcome Shri Omkar Yadav, Assistant Wireless Advisor, whose name I think is very popular in the last few years among the amateur radio fraternity. We have seen drastic changes in the process flow of with respect to communication and interaction related to licenses, renewals, and the issue of special event call signs. He has also come up on a few online sessions during the last year, and I think he also has a YouTube channel where he's trying to give us guidance on the process of going through the amateur radio license itself. He's also explained the requirements of the WPC documentation to ease the flow and make our work, our licenses and other documentation that we have been asking for with the minimum delay. This has been very well received by the Ham fraternity, sir. We are very thankful to you for all your support. On behalf of the organizing committee, we welcome you, sir. It also gives me pleasure to invite, to welcome Shri Old Man Ganesh, VU2 Tango Sierra, who is one of the license holders who has been active since the 60s, if I'm not mistaken, if I remember right, or probably the late 50s. I'm sure he'll confirm on that. And he has been active right since then. That makes it almost been active for the last 60 years. So welcome, Ganesh. It is a great pleasure to have you all during this inaugural session. It also gives us great pleasure to welcome Old Man Gopal Madhavan, Gopal as we fondly call him, VU2 Golf Mike November, who is another veteran ham. Although he got his license in the 80s, he has been exposed to amateur radio from his childhood. So it gives us great pleasure to welcome both of you to the panel. It is also a great pleasure to welcome all the delegates who are who registered on the platform officially through our Google form. I think we had close to around 400 registrations, and we also have a big community waiting, listening into this channel on YouTube also. So thank you very much once again for all of you joining us. We hope we have a good event for 2 days and commemorating the hobby that we all love, where we have been active, most of us from the 60s and 70s, 80s. I think we have a group who have been active for the last half a decade, half a century actually. So welcome you all to this session. We hope you enjoy this session. We find it informative, and any questions that you have, you need to put it up on the chat room if you are on Zoom, and if you are on YouTube, you can post your questions and queries there. It will be relayed here also. And I've just received a note from Srimati Revati, the Senior Deputy Wireless Advisor, with a request for all of us, all those who have not yet registered on Saral Sanchar, to please register yourself there, because WPC is in the process of updating their records also with the latest current information. So this is a personal request that Srimati Revati, Senior Deputy Wireless Advisor, has made to all the amateur radio fraternity. So back to you, Shankar. Thank you. Welcome you all to this event.
Okay, I also welcome the President of the Amateur Radio Society of India, Ramesh. Has been here. Thanks, Ramesh. As you all know, ARSI has been spearheading the entire process, been representing us at IARU and everything. More on it later. So on behalf of all of you, thanks Madhu for welcoming and giving the short welcome. I now request Shri Omkar ji to give his thoughts on the 100 years of amateur radio, how WPC has come up and what's in store for us as we move forward. Over to you, sir, Shri Omkar ji.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Respected senior hams, distinguished guests, radio amateurs, organizer members, good evening. On the behalf of Wireless Planning and Coordination Wing, I welcome to all the radio amateurs, and I am very happy to be here on this occasion of inaugural function of the Hamfest 2021. Thank you for inviting. I am audible.
Sir, you are visible, but your video is not there.
1 minute. Sir, some system issue is there, but
no problem, sir. We'll wait. Not an issue. Not an issue, sir.
Thank you for inviting and giving such opportunity. As we all know that ham radio began in India as early as in 1921. The first Indian ham was late Shri Amrenchand Gupta. He started his transmission in year 1921 with a call sign to Juliet Kilo. He was the only ham at that time, and so his radio transmission was a one-way traffic. As to have two-way contacts through radio, at least 2 ham operators are required. But those who were having the receiver equipment at that time, they could listen his broadcast. 2JK was followed by 2HK, Hotel Cubic, that was assigned to Mukul Bose in 1922, which was later changed to VU2 Hotel Papa. VU2 AG was assigned to late Shri Loken Bose in, I think, 1924. So two-way ham radio contacts among India started from 1922 onwards. Indian ham has served our country since freedom movements till today. So I would like to convey congratulations to all my hams for their efforts and hard work to make this hobby popular in India. Most of the Indian hams also got recognition at national and international level. Wireless Planning and Coordination Wing has already introduced online system, that is Saral Sanchar, for application of examination as well as for grant of license. Still many more significant process of simplification is going on. I think that is integration with the Bharat Course, auto renewal certificate generation. We are working on it. And WPC is also exploring the feasibility of online examinations. I think in near future, all these features will be available in the Saral Sanchar portal.
Wow.
So with these words, I would like to convey my sincere thanks on the behalf of WPC Wing and on the behalf of Madam Revati to all the participants and organizer teams and senior hams. All the best for this program. Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for those kind words there, and quite delighted, I'm sure, as VU2 Mike Uniform Delta said it, we are having an amazing time with WPC. You have been doing a great work and you have been helping us quite a bit. On behalf of the organizing committee, I thank you, sir, for your kind words, and I'm sure we can look forward to many more interactions as we move forward with you. So thanks very much, sir. Madhu, a word of thanks to him from your end.
Thank you, Mr. Omkar Nath ji. In fact, I have communicated with him also a couple of times regarding some other matters, and we have the pleasure of being very cooperative. He is also very open to suggestions. He invites suggestions and see how best he can fulfill them within the guidelines of the ministry there. Thank you, Mr. Omkar Nath ji. Thanks very much for coming up in spite of your busy schedules. And
thank you, sir. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you. Okay, sir. Jai Hind.
Okay. So, so let's start off with a small introduction of why this situation and why we are here. As you all know, Hamfest has been happening quite regularly, right from the first time that happened in Kerala, right up to the last session, which unfortunately didn't happen at Kanyakumari. So we have had some amazing strength of activities all through, and this Hamfest has been an event where hams all over the country used to come up, talk, exchange eyeball, exchange information, thrift market, sell, a whole lot of things used to happen. We were very happy that all of you have selected Mysuru to be to host the Hamfest in 2021. But we all of you know very well, due to the pandemic, it was just unfortunate that we couldn't have the Hamfest in its physical form, the face-to-face. So we thought we will have a virtual Hamfest sometime now, today, tomorrow, and things like that. And the organizing committee, all of them are here. Madhu and Kesari, Mike Tango Kilo, Saravanan, Echo Tango Sierra, and Ramas SMX, some other friends in Mysuru Amateur Radio Club and all. We decided that let's have one event here today and tomorrow, and why not have a physical session sometime in April or May. The reason for it is, as Madhu said at the beginning, it's 100 years of amateur radio. The first license was got in 1921. So this being the 100th year of amateur radio, we thought to commemorate that. And we also spoke to our friends at the ARSI, who gave all the support to us and said, let's commemorate this event. So now we have decided, everyone here out there, to commemorate that 100 years of amateur radio in our country, and to honor those pioneers who have been there then, who have been there now, and who have been helping us, the ham fraternity. And let's also get to know, for the new timers here may not be knowing what's happening, what was happening earlier, which was actually Madras was there, Bangalore was very active, from Bombay was very active. To know all about it and to know more about it, let's go over to our very first session of our program here, and that's the fireside chat. And for this fireside chat, we couldn't have rather had any better than two of the hams from the neighboring states. VU2 Tango Sierra, the senior most, I should say, here amongst us. He stays at BR Hills. BR Hills is quite near to Mysuru and Bangalore. And we also have VU2 GMN, Golf Mike November, Gopal Madhavan. So we have two pioneers here who are who have seen it all, I should say. And Gopal Madhavan, being with ARSI, was also part of the IARU representing our country. So on behalf of all of you, let's not waste much time here. Delighted to welcome VU2 Tango Sierra, Old Man Ganesh, and VU2 Golf GMN Mike November. Golf Mike November. Sorry about that, GMN. So delighted to have you both. So what I'll do is I'll leave the floor to both of you, Ganesh and Madhavan. And I also see quite a lot of activity on YouTube. There are a lot of people who are watching, and I'm sure you will have many more, much questions as the programs start. Keep your questions coming in. We will keep a note of it. My other fellow ham from Mysuru, Surya is there, Madhu is there. We'll be looking at all the questions that will come up, and we'll try and answer them. So with that, I leave the stage to VU2 Tango Sierra Ganesh and GMN Gopal Madhu. Over to you, Ganesh.
Thank you, Shankar. You can hear me all right?
Oh, yes, perfect.
Very good. Very good evening to you. Very good evening to all the participants. And good evening to Omkar Ji, who's with us today. It's a pleasure to be with you. And thank you all for joining in. And I would like to mention for people who may not know me personally. My name is Ganesh, and my call sign is VU2 Tango Sierra. And I live in BR Hills, Piligiri Ranganabetta, about 100 kilometers east of Mysuru. Okay, now we all heard that the first amateur license was issued in 1921, and the second one was issued in 1922, felicitating first two-way communications on ham radio in the country. 40 years afterwards, there were only 349 licenses issued for 40 years. And the 350th license was mine, VU2 Tango Sierra HI. I received the license in 1965, and I've been active for the past 56 years. And I have noticed tremendous development in ham radio in general, all over the world, and also in India particularly. And I'm very happy about that, and I'm enjoying every moment of these years that I've been a ham. As I said, I've seen some phenomenal achievements in the hobby, especially by VU2 hams. When I received the license, there were only two modes of operation. One was CW, that is Morse, and the other was AM, amplitude modulation. The Morse code, I think, is it's got emission type A1, and AM is emission type A3. This is the only two modes are available, so things were very simple those days. And I guess some history is in order. I need to mention the old timers who were extremely active in the 50s and 60s on AM and CW. Stalwarts like VU2 Kilowatt Bravo, Kabraji, he was in the army, from Mo in Madhya Pradesh. VU2 Charlie Quebec from Bombay, I forget his name. VU2 PP, VU2 Papa, his name is Paranj Pay from Nagpur. VU2 Charlie Kilowatt, Karnik from New Delhi. VU2 Romeo Alpha from Tumkur in Karnataka. VU2 Juliet Alpha, Joe Faithful from Bangalore. And VU2 Bravo Yankee, old man Karan from Calicut, who were all very active those days, and we used to monitor them regularly. I cannot remember all the names and call signs, so I'm sure I've left out some. I'm sorry about that. Most of us newcomers in the early 60s learned operating procedures by listening to these gentlemen hams. They are the ones who showed us that the ham radio will put the whole world in your pocket. And the propagation used to be so good those days. These old timers used to work DX with ease, but very well known throughout the world. Some of you will understand when I tell you, I used to hear these old timers work into the United States with about 50 watts on the transmitter and a dipole antenna. Unheard of these days. Now with that, I'll pass it to Gopal to see what he has to add. VU2 GMN, please go ahead, Gopal.
Thank you, Ganesh. As Shankar said, we
become old.
I came into ham radio, even though I am a nephew of VU2 BY Karan from Calicut, who has the 6th call sign in India. I sort of procrastinated, delayed, till it's only in the early 80s that I got my license. But I got very active after that. And then along with that, along came with the becoming active with the organization, etc. Yesterday, when we had a quick chat with Madhu and Shankar and Ganesh, decided that after Ganesh gives us some information about what happened in the early days, I will probably take over and say what happens in my position and to work with ARSI, IARU, etc. The Amateur Radio Society of India is the organization recognized by or affiliated to the IARU to represent Indian amateurs to their government and else outside India. It's part of the International Amateur Radio Union, which is a body, worldwide body, which was started in 1925 to be able to represent the interests of hams. It's around that time when shortwave was becoming active and people became aware of the fact that with reasonably sized antennas and power, which you could use at your own homes, you could communicate all over the world. That time, the amateurs wanted somebody to voice their opinion and make their opinion heard, and therefore the IARU was formed. It became affiliated to the International Telecommunication Union, which, as you all know, controls the spectrum worldwide. It's they who control the spectrum, and spectrum to us is like air to a human being. If you have no air, you don't breathe. If we have no spectrum, we cannot communicate. So the IARU throughout the world looks upon itself as the spokesman to voice the concerns of radio amateurs, to protect the frequencies that we have, and to try and get more frequencies which for use by radio amateurs. Quite a lot has been achieved, and I'm sure if you look it up, you'll find I don't want to waste time by saying what are the various things, but what are the most significant things where the use obtaining of the expansion of the 7 megahertz and also the WRC bands a few years ago. So back to you, Ganesh. Ganesh?
Okay, thank you, Gopal. Thank you for passing it to me. Now, I'll go back to the 100 years of ham radio. The import of ham radio equipment were unheard of those days, in my days. And everyone had to make their own transmitter and receiver. But as soon as I got my license, I found out that making a receiver is not easy. Making a good communications receiver is not easy, sensitive one. So that was left to experts like people who are known as home brewers, and who are experts in building their own transmitters and receivers. But building a transmitter wasn't so difficult. So I built my first transmitter and then used the actually World War II surplus receiver. In fact, most of us were using World War II surplus receivers those days. So that was the condition. And those receivers are even now considered as, like vintage receivers, and some people are using those receivers still. And then we go on to the modes of operation. As I said earlier, there are only two modes, CW and AM. SSB was popular, showed up sometime in the mid-70s, I think. We could hear some DX stations operating on SSB. The current emission is J3E, Juliet 3 Echo. And the newcomers to this hobby were not aware of single sideband transmission. They called it the Donald Duck mode because they did not know how to resolve the audio on their receivers, and so it sounded garbled. It was in the early 80s or so that import of ham gear was kindly permitted by the Ministry of Communications, and Indian radio amateurs could import ham transceivers without paying any custom duty. This was really a big boost to amateur radio in India because by that time there was no more war supplies available easily. All along, ham stations in India had a transmitter and the receiver separately. But when the imported equipment started arriving, they were all modern transceivers, all combined into one. Small, compact equipment which you could easily carry for field days or emergency operations, which was not possible in the earlier days. Needless to mention, the quality of signals also improved tremendously with commercial transceivers because they were built professionally. So with more number of hams getting on the air, we had the clubs coming up all over the country. The early 80s saw the entry of VHF into India, and we amateurs in Bangalore were the first ones to communicate on VHF in the country. And soon we had the first repeater station in India, VU2 Radio Sierra Bravo, RSB, situated on Nandi Hills, elevated about 5,000 feet above sea level, which gives a good coverage of almost all of South India. This was followed by more repeaters, and now I think we have some 4 VHF repeaters in Bangalore, located in some strategic locations, so to cover the whole city, and then some. I'll pass it back to you, Gopal. We have to golf Mike November. Please go ahead with your DS.
Thank you, Ganesh. Well, as Ganesh said, the ham radio has expanded quite exponentially in India, and more and more people are getting their licenses and operating. We have to really take our hats off to the WPC because we started off with regulations which went back several decades when amateur radio was not very active. There were more restrictions than permissions. So over a period of time, we have been able to work with WPC and get them to change the regulations so much so that we are able to use our equipment freer and get our licenses quicker. And of course, there are many things still to be done, and I'm wondering if Omkar is still there. We have some pending issues which I think is best be taken up in writing, and I can help Ramesh to put together a little document which needs to be sent to WPC. And I'm pretty sure that the way that Revati Madam and Omkar and Devendra are working with us, we will have no difficulty in getting these things sorted out over a period of time. Well, IRU continues to be a very active arm of all of us, working for all of us. And even now, there are meetings online meetings going on where items are being discussed for the next World Radio Conference in 23, or called WRC 23, where more items are which will benefit hams worldwide are going to be taken up, and we are pushing forward to it. We have to work with our local organizations, the regional organizations, like Asia Pacific Telecommunity for the Asia Pacific region, which is based in Bangkok. And we were able to, after a long time, get a memorandum of understanding signed with APT, which gives us a little bit more impetus for working with them. So these are the things that we need to continue doing. And I'm sure Ramesh will take it up with us hereafter. And we will be able to get a little bit more changes, minor changes really, which are minor changes which will bring our licensing more in line with worldwide regulations as it exists. Thank you.
Yes, Ganesh, go ahead. Talking of 100 years of amateur radio, also, brings us quite a lot of memories of importing the equipment. And as JMN was telling the other day, we still don't have a shop where we can walk in, just like a Radio Shack in the US or any other place. So, and you were the first to start one company in Bangalore to sell amateur radio equipment. Tell us more about that experience, Ganesh. That's an interesting experience.
Was it for me? Because I was quite able to understand the question. The voice was very, very low. It's for Ganesh, I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, can I go ahead, Gopal? Yeah. Okay. Now, Shankar, you wanted me to relate some of the experience that we had of importing the equipment. Well, actually, in the beginning, it was very difficult to import the equipment, even though WPC had given us the license to import. The customs were not very clear as to whether it was legal or not legal. And so we had a lot of explaining to do to them, both by correspondence and by personally meeting the customs officials, showing them the license. So after about a year or so, after a few initial imports, it became fairly easy. But even then, we had some problems, like they were seeing between lines. For instance, once when I imported some HF equipment for myself, the catalog said the 160 meters is between 1.5 megahertz to 3 megahertz or whatever. But the license says 1.8 megahertz to 1.95 or whatever. So there was a difference between the two. So the customs said that they can't clear it because it doesn't match the license. So we had to explain to them it's the commercially manufactured equipment used all over the world. And they will not be using the specifications of what has been allotted to us in India. So we have been allotted a certain frequency. So the equipment will have a little more than that. And the hams, of course, are so disciplined that they will not misuse it by using it on higher frequency. It is no use for them. And so on that basis, finally, they kind of agreed and delivered the equipment, etc. So these are some of the small difficulties we had. Otherwise, it was perfectly okay. Everybody was very happy, and a lot of equipment was imported into India. And because of that, many hams came on the air as well. Over to you, Shankar.
Yeah. Thanks, Ganesh. That's pretty interesting. The initial days of late 80s, I had seen you in Bangalore. I'm sure GMN will also share his experience. Of course, he will continue with Ramesh later on about his experience of how IARU frequency allocation. How does it work, GMN?
Well, IARU was, as you said, formed around 1925 to look after the interests of amateur radio. It is split in the same format from the way ITU is done. 3 geographical regions. Region 1 is Europe, Africa, Middle East. and South Africa. Region 2 is the Americas, North and South America. Region 3 is the Asia Pacific region. We come under Region 3, and our headquarters of Region 3 is in Tokyo. Our JRL, or Japan Amateur Radio League, hosts our secretariat, and they also provide the secretary to the directors. The directors are elected once in 3 years. The election took place just a few months ago, and they come from all parts of Asia Pacific. When you go into the IARU itself, the IARU is governed by an administrative council. The administrative council consists of the president, the vice president, the secretary and treasurer, and 2 representatives from each of the 3 IARU regions. There will be 2 from Region 3, 2 from Region 2, and 2 from 1. I had the privilege of serving on the AC for almost 8 years when I was a director of IARU. And they, again, are meeting now online. So they were supposed to meet in person every year at the time of the regional conferences. The Region 3 conference was supposed to have been in Bangkok, but it could not take place, and they had a virtual conference. So again, everything is done like that. The IARU again is constantly working towards getting us more privileges worldwide. Thanks, go ahead.
Yeah, sorry on that. Ganesh, you wanted to add something for this? Before we start taking questions from the panel or the other hand, anything you wanted to add, Ganesh?
No, nothing specific, because the time allotted was quite small. So I just concluded that in my last over itself. Over.
Okay, thanks, Ganesh. So quite a bit of, I should say, experience for both of you for almost about more than about 6 decades of amateur radio in India. So we will now open up for any questions from our fellow hams across the country to GMN and VU to TS. Any questions that you would like to, clarifications or questions that you would like to ask any one of you, please? I'll just mute my video so that I can save the bandwidth.
Shankar, we'll have to wait for a few minutes because there's a lag on YouTube. We'll have to see if anything comes up from YouTube also. So we'll have to wait for a couple of minutes.
Sure. We will factor in that time lag. Dr. Kailash Gupta, I think an old timer has a question. Please go ahead, old man.
Okay, thank you very much. Namaste to everybody. First of all, I am Dr. Kailash Gupta, Victor Uniform 2 Kilo India Zulu, and American call sign KG6 SQR, Sierra Quebec Romeo. My question is related to, that before asking the question, I want to just give brief that the government of India took initiative and started coalition of disaster resilient infrastructure, which I think we will speak about that tomorrow, Dr. Kailash. If you have any questions to TS or GMN. Okay, question. Can I ask related question or not? Related. Anything to ham is most welcome, sir. Okay. So my question is, okay, I'll not talk about the project and everything. My question is, in USA, like some of the emergency operation centers, there are already amateur radio stations are there established, ham clubs. Why can't in India, we in the emergency operation center, we have amateur radio stations established at the government cost, and hams can go and learn and get license, and when disaster, they can help in restoration of emergency communication. That's all. That's the question to
GMN can take up that.
Okay, thank you, Kailash. Well, I am aware of the way the ARSI, Amateur Radio Emergency Communication, works in America. The ARRL itself has a couple of roomfuls of equipment. I've seen it myself, a couple of roomfuls of equipment is available. See, to set up permanent locations for emergency communications is difficult because we don't have the place to do that. We have to do it in our houses or somebody's office. In Chennai, we wanted to set up a station at the collector's office. We knew we can't leave equipment there because it will disappear. At least we wanted to have the antennas ready, so in case of an emergency, we just pick up a radio, pick up a battery and go there and operate. A few months later, we found all the wires had been stolen, taken away, so we had to start all over again. So it is not easy in India to have permanent locations for emergency communication. It has to be done by individuals. We have in ARSI what we call grab kits, where all the equipment required for an emergency station is available in a backpack. All you require is a battery and a radio. All the wires for making an antenna, all the coaxial cables, connectors, everything, basic tools, everything is there. And those are spread out all over the country for people to pick up and use. They have been used also. So unfortunately, Kailash, we are not able to find, in Bangalore, we wanted to have a station in the Red Cross Society. We even, with the donated equipment, we set up a station with antennas and radios, etc. A few months later, we found that they locked the room and made it to a storeroom. And so everything was wasted. We had to pick it up and bring it back again, piece by piece. I believe one vertical antenna donated by old man Robert is still on the roof there, which we're not been able to bring back.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, GMN, for that. Anybody else has any questions to TS and GMN? Okay. Any questions? Let me check up the YouTube. As you all know, we are streaming this session on YouTube also, and there's quite a lot of there's a huge numbers here. Let me have a look at the YouTube. Have any questions? There's some Tangavel TSS. It's quite interesting. I had visited Digitronics way back to visit VU2TS. So that's one more. VU2 USA is all. There's quite a lot from YouTube. So if there are no questions, I think we will request Madhu. Are you there?
Yeah, I'm back.
Yeah, thanks, Madhu. You can kindly close the sessions. Thank each one of them and carry on, Madhu. You can go ahead. It's all you.
Okay, thank you, Ganesh, and thank you, Gopal, for giving us that brief walk through history of amateur radio and the Indian association with the IARU and ITU regions. It is a pleasure. Thank you, Ganesh. Thank you, Gopal. Anything for the closing remarks, Ganesh?
No, nothing. Thank you all very much for listening. And thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk to all of you. I wish you all the best there. Thank you.
Thank you, Ganesh. Gopal?
Thank you very much to all of you, Ganesh and Shanks and Madhu and all listening in, Dr. Kailash. I'll be around for a little while when I need to sign off and go get lost somewhere else. But maybe I will join in on some other sessions. Thanks so much for inviting us, and we look forward to more interactions. Thank you and bye.
Okay, thank you, Gopal. Thank you for the nice discussion there, a panel talk, and you can certainly keep it continued in touch with through the YouTube link that has been shared out in quite a few groups. We'll send you a link directly also. So if you're not going to be in front of the computer, you can continue on your YouTube link there. So we can now, I think, move on to the next session, which is the session for ARSI, the Amateur Radio Society of India. It's already been informed. Okay, I thought there was some other message that came through. Okay, thank you, Gopal and Ganesh, for the session. We'll continue with the next part of the session, which was scheduled at 5 o'clock. We are running on time. So, we welcome Ramesh Kumar, VU2 Lima Uniform, the president of the Amateur Radio Society of India. Since the last 2 terms, he's been doing a good job. And over to you, Ramesh. You can bring in your panel if anybody else is there who will be joining us for this. You can go ahead. We'll also, anybody who has got any queries related to ARSI, you can put up your queries both on the chat room here and on the YouTube chat. We'll have it, try and get it answered from Ramesh and other office bearers who may be on the panel. Go ahead, Ramesh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Madhu. Am I audible?
Yeah, a little low, but coming through okay.
Okay, let me see if I can. Yeah, I'll have it closer to the, speak closer to the mic. So, good evening, and thank you very much for inviting me to this session. Good evening to Omkar ji, the Assistant Wireless Advisor to the Government of India, WPC, who is the special guest. And I think Revati Madam, not present in this particular session, who is the Senior Deputy Wireless Advisor, Government of India. And Mr. Devendra, I think he's the engineer at WPC. And well, that was quite a good session by Gopal, VU2 GMN, and VU2 Tango Sira, Ganesh, senior hams, well informed, and Gopal being the flag bearer of ARSI for the last 1.5 decades, I can say. So, well, Gopal has in fact given us the complete structure of the ARSI and how it is affiliated to IRU Region 3. He has also mentioned about the 3 regions, the Region 1, Region 2, and Region 3, and we belong to the Region 3. So let me focus on the activities of ARSI, how its internal structure is, and what it does with respect to the activities within India. And of course, we are open to any questions, following this. ARSI, as mentioned earlier, it is the nodal organization representing the Indian hams at the IRU Region 3. It's the only member society, and well, it got affiliated to IRU almost during 1940s. The history of that is there on the qrz.com. In our the club call sign page, VU2 Zulu Hotel. VU2 Zulu Hotel is the ARSI official call sign, and the focus of ARSI is to gather membership within India. Currently, we have about 700 members, and our strength, the strength of ARSI, the membership strength of ARSI, is indirectly the strength of ARSI at the IRU. Typically, to give an example, a large country like ours, even though we have licensed amateurs today, roughly say 25,000. I don't have an accurate figure because there have been many call sign holders who may not have renewed. And of course, if you consider the whole thing, it may cross even 30 to 40,000. But we only have about 700 active members who are life members and annual members of ARSI. And of course, we also have come up with institutional membership recently meaning about 4 to 5 years back. and that is quite a good figure spread across India. I will just read out the institutional members because it's important that everybody knows it. So if you are a member of any of these associations, you are indirectly a member of ARSI, and you are eligible for certain benefits like the QSL Bureau, etc. VU2IH, Indian Institute of Hams, Bangalore, VU2ARC, Bangalore Amateur Radio Club, VU2 Bravo Kilo, Mount Abu International Amateur Radio Club, VU2 Bravo Papa Alpha, Mumbai Amateur Radio Institute, Mumbai, VU2 GIN, Amateur Radio Convention and Conference Samiti, Kolkata, VU2 RDO, Bangalore Amateur Radio Club, VU2 ECB, Disaster Amateur Radio Emergency Service, DARES, Mumbai, and the most recent has been VU2 LCI, Lions Club International Amateur Radio Club, Bangalore, which old man Ajay, VU2 JHM, got the affiliation done very recently in the month of April. Of course, see, the most recent elections to the board of the ARSI happened last month. And in fact, a couple of office bearers, the vice president, VU2 MTK Kesri, is also the member of the organizing committee of this particular event. And we also have Madhu VU2 MUD, who is the governing council member. Our secretary, Govind Girmaji, VU2 GGM, fondly called as Poru, currently is traveling in Nagpur. So I think he was present in this meeting earlier. He said if there are any questions to him, he will take it, but he may not be able to actively present anything because he's traveling right now. He's on a highway traveling, I think, from a remote place to the Nagpur airport. So so along with this 8 institutional members, we have about 700 individual members. Most of them are life members, and earlier we had 2 ways of membership, the annual membership and the life membership. And in most cases, the annual members would not renew, in the sense they would either forget to renew or, they would be out of touch. So we also introduced a 5-year and a 10-year long-term annual membership, making it convenient, both in terms of keeping them actively involved and also making it easy for them to renew once in 5 years or 10 years. So all these details are available, updated on the website arsi.info. Currently, ARSI has various activities. I can say, we have our chairman, Gopal Madhavan, who was the earlier president of ARSI for 3 terms, and who was also the director at IRU Region 3 for 3 terms, out of which 2 terms he was also the chairman of directors. So though he wanted to retire and take a back seat, we wanted him to guide us and mentor us. So we requested him to be our chairman, which he kindly accepted for the last period and also the current period, which is yet to be nominated after our current board meeting. So ARSI has various events, which is led by appointed office bearers, for the specific period. We have the annual contest and awards manager, Prakash Srinivasan, VU2 IBI. Currently, we have disaster communication coordinator, Subhash Babu with UOB. We have the monitoring coordinator who regularly monitors the intrusions in the ham frequencies and sends monthly reports to the IRU Region 3 coordinator, which are in turn published on the IRU Region 3 webpage. This is coordinated by Sanil Deep, VU3 SIO. And we have our popular newsletter, HRN, Ham Radio News, which is edited by VU2TS, Tango Sira, Ganesh. Very promptly, it is published every quarter, the first week of every quarter. The last edition has been published in the first week of October. So, of course, we have our webmaster who maintains the website, Sanjay Madhavan, VU2 SJD, and we have the WPC coordinator, Virendra Kumar Arya, V2VAB. And I would also like to mention old man Rajesh Chandawani, V2 Charlie Whiskey, who also does a lot of coordination work for us. And of course, we have the very effectively functioning QSL Bureau, wherein of course, currently this year we have lesser cards coming in because of the pandemic, because a lot of QSL bureaus across the world have shut their operations, temporarily. But we have this QSL bureau functioning quite effectively, handling about 1,000 QSL cards coming in from various countries and locally being distributed to all the VU hams. Though the outgoing service for the QSL bureau is meant only for the members, the incoming cards are offered to be picked up or taken by post by all VU hams, whether they are members or non-members of ARSI, encouraging them to become members, to use the service of ARSI more effectively. So this being the structure and the main activities of ARSI, I think in the first session there was a question to Gopal V2 GMN by Dr. Kailash Gupta regarding why and why not we set up the disaster management cells or emergency communication centers across India. In fact, I can say the emergency communication is primarily handled by local clubs quite effectively. Whenever the disaster strikes, the most recent have been in southern India, in the east and west coast in the torrential rains which took over, caused a lot of disaster in Kerala and Tamil Nadu 2-3 years back. And of course, we are doing our best effort under Subhash Babu in the last 2 years. I can say 1.5 years. Subhash Babu took over from Sharath, old man Sharath, VU3 RSB, only last December, if I'm right. So we are making some good effort, and let us see. We have a new committee in, which has taken form only last month, and let us see what we have in hand. How we can improvise on these things. As Gopal mentioned earlier, we have these grab kits which have been distributed across India to various hams. And these have been used in earlier disaster communications. This has everything except a radio. It has an antenna. It has the bare minimum tools, and virtually anything that ham requires. All the accessories are available in this particular kit. Only thing that the ham has to grab a radio and get to action in the particular disaster location. So with this, I would like to say what we have done in the last 1 year with respect to our coordination with WPC. We have, in fact, there was a call from WPC regarding, the submission of a report, for roadmap for use of radio spectrum in India during the next 10 years. There was a call, and we have submitted this report, comprehensive report, which was, of course, earlier put together by various other hams also when Gopal was the president. This was submitted in 13th of January 2021, following which we have been in touch with WPC. Of course, Omkar ji has been very helpful in renewing, licenses which have expired, much longer than the actual required period. The 5 years being the normal renewal tenure. There have been a lot of exceptions taken by the WPC officials, helping hams to come back on the air. And the other coordinators, of course, as I mentioned earlier, we have the newsletter, which is very promptly being published every quarter. So what I would like to mention here is the strength of the association. The strength of ARSI is in the number of members that we have. If I have to mention, a few other member nations of the IRU, if you consider Indonesia, where ORARI is the national society, which is a member society of the IRU, the membership to ORARI is close to 45,000. This was what the figure that was quoted in the recent IRU Region 3 conference. They have 45,000 members. So India with a similar figure of licensed hams, we are about 700 members to the national society. So how it actually matters is the number of members that the member societies have. The fee that we pay to IRU is equally proportional, and of course our voice, which is heard at the IRU, and our representation is also equally balanced. So our numbers have to increase. We need support from all the hams to become life members or to become annual members and take active role in the activities of ARSI. Recently, it has been very encouraging, especially in 2021. The contests which have been conducted have had very good response. I think the most recent contest, that is the hilltopping contest, had nearly 45 teams participating, which is very encouraging. It is the first time, I can say. And India also has, is coming up prominently in the global contests, where there are, of course, not very big numbers, but slowly the numbers are increasing. The contestants are, the number of contestants are increasing. So, which is quite encouraging, to see Indian participation at the global level. And, the participation of ARSI at the IRU conferences was also very prominent. Our previous president, Old Man Gopal, being the chairman of directors for 2 periods, we had a huge voice, and it was a very prominent participation there. So this is about the activities of ARSI in general. And we have, as I mentioned earlier, we have had a new committee just formed about 4 weeks back. 24th of October was the last election, and the new board was elected. And we are yet to put out the new programs and, in terms of contests and the changes in our activities, we are yet to propose. And we wish, we request you all to support ARSI by being yourself members. I'm sure I can see a lot of names in the list of these participants in today's event who are already members of ARSI, but we wish you bring in at least one other member so that our strength increases. And in 2022, we will be certainly happy if our figure crosses 1,000 members. So with this, I would like to say thank you to the Mysuru Hams for inviting me to speak, give ARSI a place to express ourselves, and I certainly wish them all the best for their main event, which is going to take place in 2022, the actual physical Hamfest India, which we are looking forward for almost 2 years now, the last of which was in Kanyakumari. The Hamfest at Vagaman, Kerala, was did not happen because of the COVID, and the Mysuru event, which was to happen this year, the physical event also has not happened. Well, it has been very nice of the organizing committee of Hamfest India 2021 to take up this, to conduct this event commemorating the 100 years of amateur radio in India. And I thank the organizers, for a wonderful job. Conducting an online event is not really easy because you're not sure till the things work, because at least in the physical event, things are different. Online events are, subject to so many variables. So thank you very much once again at 73.
Excellent, Ramesh. Thanks very much for that information, amazing information, quite a lot of information. Just to repeat for the benefit of all the hams here, ARSI is the recognized body for amateur radio in India as far as WPC and IARU is concerned. So it makes very good sense for all of us to become members of the ARSI, strengthen it and take active part in that, so that the frequencies are not snatched away by some other associate organizations or agencies in India. So we keep our bandwidth and frequencies stuck to us, and also maybe get more, and also streamline examination process. Quite a lot of emphasis on skill education and hands-on education. I'm sure we will have quite a lot of opportunity for all of us, and ARSI in particular, to get associated with schools and to encourage amateur radio across the country. So with that, thanks Ramesh for the great presentation. So can we have any questions? Do you have any questions, anybody on ARSI? Please go ahead.
My question is, how many approximately active hams are there on the air? If any guess?
I think the rough guess could be a few hundred, maybe 400-500, because if you consider active hams, there is more activity. The most activity you can see is into the net check-ins, because apart from the typical DXers who don't normally come into the regular nets, who are a handful, I can say, most of the other activities like people rag chewing and checking into the nets, or nowadays you can see VHF nets which are conducted all across South India, because there are some nets which can reach out almost the entire South India, where the check-ins are almost up to 100. So if you consolidate these, and of course you have a large ham community in Pune, you have a large ham community in Mumbai, and of course Hyderabad. Apart from that, you have a lot of hams in northern India and eastern India. So active hams maybe about 500-600, I can say, who are regularly on the air, or at least who are on the air at least once in a week. I think that answers your question.
Okay, we have one more from Mangesh Patil. Mangesh, can you just go ahead, please?
Hey, I just want to thank Ramesh for the wonderful brief introduction there. I also want to thank ARSI guys, Ramesh, Girimaji, KK. They are all doing wonderful job. Just thank you. That's it. Nothing else.
Yeah, thank you, Mangesh. Mangesh was with us in one of the recent, lighthouse events where I met him for the first time. A very good DXer, and after that he has become a member of ARSI. I can say he's one of the most recent members of ARSI. I welcome him into ARSI, and I wish others can take that lead. Thank you, Mangesh.
Okay, there's another one, Ramesh, from Prithviraj. Any ARSI member from Northeast? Any plan to expand our organization there, Ramesh, in the Northeast?
Yeah, we have a lot of members in the Northeast. If you consider West Bengal and Assam, and farther east also, I cannot readily recall anybody's name, but you can write to me at president@arsi.info if you need any specific information, or to my personal email ID vu2lu@yahoo.com. I'll be definitely happy to answer you.
Fair enough. I'm sure that should expand quite a lot of our activities there. Any other questions from anyone to Ramesh? Okay.
I have one question for Ramesh, sir.
Sorry, somebody.
This is Surya, sir, VU3FNW.
Uh-huh.
I am asking this on behalf of a member on the YouTube comments.
Mhm.
I believe what he is asking is, as you said, the members can, some of the clubs are affiliated to ARSI. Someone who is a member of the said affiliated club, how can they utilize the QSL facility, the card bureau of ARSI? I believe that is what he is asking.
Yes, yes. So, as I mentioned earlier, the incoming service to QSL Bureau, meaning that cards which come from other countries are published. The list of the cards are published. Till the last year, it was published every month. This year, since the volumes are less, we are publishing it every second month. The most recent has been published yesterday. So the incoming cards, the cards coming in from other countries can be taken by anybody, any VU ham. But if you are utilizing such a service, we only request you to become a member. But for the outgoing service, we offer this only to the members, and we offer it to the direct members as well as to the members of the affiliated clubs. So only thing is the affiliated club has to identify that ham as that he's a member of that particular club, so that permitting him to use the outgoing service of the QSL Bureau of ARSI. So we need a sort of a proposal from that local club saying that this person is a member of that particular club. So incidentally, when the affiliations have been done, the member clubs have not given us any list of members. So we do not know who is a member of which club. So if they are providing such a list, we will directly verify. If they are not providing, at least on a case-to-case basis, they can tell us that the specific person is a member.
Yes.
This question was from VU2 Yankee India Echo Achar. Regarding the QSL Bureau, that I think that is what Achar had asked Ramesh.
Okay. Yeah, Achar. Okay. I think he's in Bangalore, and I think he's a member of BRC.
Yes, he is.
Yes. So, which means he can use the QSL Bureau, but my request again goes to him that he can also become a member of ARSI and support ARSI directly.
Okay, there is also one more comment from Rajaram Srinivasan. I will definitely seek membership of ARSI as soon as possible to support our country's voice in IARU and preserve our frequencies amongst other worthy causes. Go ahead, Ramesh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Rajaram. Wonderful. This is what we want from all licensed hams in India. We wish, as a nodal organization, we wish each one of us, each licensed ham is one way or the other associated and takes an active role in the function of this particular society. So you are surely welcome and actively participate in all the activities. Welcome to ARSI, Rajaram. And how you can become a member, all that information is there on the website, arsi.info.
Okay, excellent. There are quite a bit of questions and quite a bit of active voices from all across Northeast and North and everywhere. Ramesh, I'm sure the hams here are keeping you busy for next couple of days to answer all the queries.
Yeah, I will be happy to. My response time to email is quite short, so they can almost expect my reply, almost the same day.
Thanks.
Ramesh sir, this is Surya again, VU3FNW. I have a question from the YouTube comments. This is from an SWL. The question is regarding if you have any idea on when the next ASOC exam will be conducted in Bangalore.
Well, see, earlier ASOC exams were conducted as a calendar event. They were conducted in January, April. That is every 3 months. There were 4 exams, in a year. And earlier, anybody could walk into WPC and the monitoring station and hand over an application and take the exams as and when they were conducted. But now the things have changed. Now the things have changed in 2 ways. One is the COVID-19 has played a major role. So these things are not happening at least the last 1.5 years. And WPC has moved to digital platform. Now there is no physical application. You will have to log into the online portal of WPC, and you'll have to pay the fees online in Bharat Kosh and file a particular application. And of course, Bangalore, it may not be difficult because one of our member organizations, VU2IAH, I think is regularly conducting classes. So if you're not interested in taking classes, you can find out from WPC or from IAH, when it is being conducted. There have also been classes conducted by Bangalore Amateur Radio Club. May not be very frequently, but at least annually they do in coordination with Bharat Scouts and Guides. So these are the 2 organizations which clubs, ham clubs, which frequently conduct exams in Bangalore. So I'm sure you'll be able to, get some answer to this. If you are from Bangalore, you can attend the BRC meeting tomorrow morning, 9:30 at the Palace grounds. And I think you will meet a lot of other hams who will give you, more specific information on this.
Sure, sir. Thank you. Thank you for the answer.
Yes.
Okay, Ramesh, there's one more thing that during my interactions with non-members or people who are not yet members of ARSI, whenever we try to talk them into joining ARSI, the first and major question is, what do I get out of becoming a member of ARSI when I'm already a member of my local club?
See, the best thing that can happen is your belongingness. You belong to something, that is the dearest thing that can happen to any human being. See, we would like to, see, we are social animals. We want clubs, we want associations. It is not that you are a member of one club. It's not like you have one car, why buy another car? It's not like that. It's not materialistic. Association of people is more a social behavior that, the more you associate with a regional club or a national club, the more support you are offering to that particular body, because you are increasing the strength by numbers. So what do you get? Well, I think Gopal VU2GMN has clearly listed out what ARSI does for hams in India, what we have been doing, and the most recent things, what has happened to the positive things that has happened to all amateurs most recently is whenever an amateur used to go for a field day, we had to seek permission from WPC, apply 2-3 months earlier, take out a demand draft for 200 rupees and seek for a temporary change of location. Normally it will not come in time because because the bureaucracy, of course, things have changed because of Shri Omkar Nath and several other officers there, but still it's an effort. So that has changed now. You just have to pack your bags and you can leave, because this is one major change that has happened, that you don't need special permission to temporarily move out of your station and operate in a different location. And of course, it doesn't mean that if you shift your house, you don't have to change your QTH. You have to, but for temporary change of location, you don't need permissions. So these are the things that ARSI has been following for decades. This is something which has become fruitful after persistent follow-up by Gopal and few other hams from almost 2009. So this is what we want your support for. We want your support because we want to show to the WPC and to the organizations that, see, this is the strength that we have. So many people need this particular thing. So many people are going to be benefited. So that is the reason we request you to become member and support ARSI.
That is exactly the lines that I have been usually talking to them on, Ramesh, because the numbers are what counts in WPC, where we say we are a representative organization. So the numbers are what matter. So that is one thing. And there was one more query that I was thinking of. This QSL cards outgoing. These are usually based on numbers or on weight, because previously it was on weight. I think it is on numbers now. Is that right?
Yes. Now it is on numbers. It's a flat rate of 2 rupees per card, a minimum of 15 cards. So even if you have one card, you pay 30 rupees. If you have 15 cards, you pay 30 rupees. If you have 100 cards, you pay 200 rupees. But when it is going to be shipped out, we have to build up volumes. It is not going to be shipped out every month. The last shipping out of QSL cards happened in 2020. After that, the postal service closed down, the air services closed down, and many QSL bureaus outside the country said, don't send the cards because we are not working. So we are slowly resuming that outgoing things. Of course, in the last 1 year, there have been several hams who have sent us cards, and they have been sitting with us. We have sorted them out, and I think we will start shipping out cards from Jan. So the current way in which a ham can calculate for if he has any outgoing cards is by numbers and not by weight.
And I hope the process for sorting the outgoing cards is also being mentioned in the website.
Yes. The ARSI website has a specific page, a separate page for the QSL bureau. And before sending the cards, we request the member to sort it out in a specific way, and also see that the cards that he is submitting to be sent out, the specific bureau is currently working. For example, if you have a card for Kuwait, now currently the Kuwait bureau is not working. So it will just sit at the bureau even if you send the card. We will not be able to ship it out. So like that, there are many bureaus across the world which are not functioning temporarily or permanently, and they may resume over a period of time. So this particular list is published regularly by the IRU on the IRU website, the link of which we have it on our ARSI webpage. So if you have cards, number one is to verify whether the specific cards that you have, the specific bureaus are functioning. And secondly, please sort them according to the countries and send it to us.
Okay, thank you, Ramesh. Okay, Achar has also got one more query. I have applied for general grade license in March and till now not processed. Can ARSI help in speeding up?
Yes, certainly we can help in speeding up. Mostly it will be a documentation issue because we don't see any license pending for such a long period unless it has some documentation problem. So what Achar can do is they can send us a scanned copy of the entire documents that they have, and whatever they've sent it to WPC, and we will see how best we can help regarding that.
Okay, thank you, Ramesh. I hope that answers your support request, Achar. And is there any other? And there is also, I think, somebody who was I think Neil was asking for the dates in Hyderabad. Anybody else looking out for dates for examination? There has been a note on YouTube that there is an exam scheduled on 10th of December at Hyderabad. So probably you can check out with the any friends you have in the amateur radio circles in Hyderabad. Okay.
May I ask
Have
you
any
a
other
question?
queries? Got Kailash ji?
Yeah, okay. Ramesh ji, I've been a member of ARES from beginning, and I've also signed the non-disclosure, etc. certificate volunteer. My question is, that's grape kits. Can I would like to have one grape kit. It can be sent to me. Thank you.
Hi, Dr. Kailash. Yes, we are looking into this because, as I mentioned earlier, the new committee has just been formed, and in fact, the extended committee, is yet to be formed. In the sense, of course, we have VU2UOB Subhash Babu, who has been with us from last December, and the new committee is meeting next Wednesday. And following which, all these decisions will be taken, and all the extended committee members will be reappointed, or fresh members may be appointed. So following which, I think these things on priority will be taken up. We have, in fact, some of the kits which have been returned to us for various reasons. We have a couple of kits with us. Definitely, we can send you a kit. It's not a problem. But let the committee take the decision next Wednesday, following which we can definitely inform you regarding this.
Thank you.
So this is Surya again,
Yeah.
TFNW. I have a question again for Ramesh sir.
Yeah, please tell me.
Yeah, sir. So like right now in Mysore, we had roughly 8 to 10 members who are all SWLs, or a couple of us who are restricted and want to upgrade to general. Since it was convenient, we just applied it in Hyderabad because anyway we'll be attending the large fest. Now, once I do get my general license, I am planning on getting ham radio introduced to some of my college friends. And so if, let us say, we have roughly 20 to 30 members, students who might be interested in taking up the exam as a group, is there any way we can coordinate with the monitoring station and request them to conduct exams at our local city in Mysore? Or will all the 20 to 30, some arbitrary number of members, will they all have to travel back to Bangalore or any other city?
The answer to this is yes and no, because there have been several occasions where the monitoring, the examiner has traveled to specific locations and conducted the exam in the past. And it also depends on the examiner, his or her schedule. It is not a rule that whenever there are 30-40 students taking exam, they will necessarily have to go to that location and do it. There is no rule like that. In fact, I was once apprised by the Pune hams that since no exams were conducted in Pune, though they were regularly conducting exams there, all the aspirants went to Mumbai to take the exam. These are variables. So it is possible, yes. It depends on the official. If he coordinates, he has to be, you will have to coordinate the transport and other things. It may be possible. And in case they refuse, we have no say. All of them have to come to Bangalore and take the exam. So it's not for certain, but there have been cases where exams have been conducted in locations other than where there is a monitoring station located.
Okay. That actually confirmed a lot of doubts. Thank you. And,
yeah, there are a lot of variables behind that. So I cannot say as a rule or a policy that if you have 30 students or if you have a minimum number of students, the examiner has to go. The examiner may not go, maybe because of so many reasons. Because of their own preoccupation and things like that. So this is not I cannot say for certain. We'll have to see on a case-to-case basis.
Yes, sir. Understood. Got it.
Okay. Good. Madhu, anything else? Nothing.
No, as of now, nothing else coming up either on YouTube or on Zoom.
Sorry?
No, nothing else has come up anywhere.
Okay. Right on. So if there is nothing else, and okay, thanks very much, Ramesh, for the great presentation and quite a lot of information that you gave to all the ham. And I'm sure all the hams will also be in touch with you personally for any personal queries at the club level or at the clubs or the individual level. So
Certainly.
on behalf of the organizing committee of the HFI 2021, all of us here would like to thank Ramesh VU2 Lima United for the great effort he has taken and the support he has been giving us from Bangalore, not only just from Mysore hams here, but all across the country. I've seen him quite a bit of time spending for amateur radio. So on behalf of every one of you, I would like to thank Ramesh Kumar. Thanks, Ramesh.
You're welcome, Shankar. It is my pleasure, and definitely we will extend our support, me personally, and also from ARSI for the upcoming event in Mysuru. You said it may be in April, May, the main event. It will be our pleasure, our neighboring city, and also from ARSI individually by myself. I offer all the support. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Ramesh. So there we is. We come to the end of the third item of our agenda. We had an excellent inauguration by Omkar Nath Yadav, who was very kind enough to come and inaugurate the session. It was so nice of him to come, and we had, from then we went almost nostalgic with TS and GMN, taking us back almost 100 years, I should say, on amateur radio. And then we have coming back to ground realities. We had Ramesh giving us quite a lot about what ARSI is, how ARSI as the nodal club in India for IARU and WPC can help all of us as amateurs in our endeavor to make this hobby a great success and much more loving hobby. So with that, we come to the end of the session. So we will go to the next session. Next session should be pretty interesting. Al is here. Okay, I see him. And Jack should be joining any moment now. And both of them, Al and Jack, W8 TEE, JEE is an amazing, both of them have worked quite a bit on SDR, and I'm sure all of you have read whatever that has been sent to. Okay. So whatever that has been sent to through your mail on a small synopsis of who they are and what they are working on. To talk with Al and Jack on SDR, we have an amazing, a tremendous and a fantastic ham with us today. And he is Manoj VU2 Charlie Papa Lima. VU2CPL is here with us. Manoj, nice catching up with you. Manoj, by the way, is a commercial pilot. He's a high-flying guy, almost at 35,000 feet, always, most of the time, I should say. But nevertheless, thanks to this program, we have grounded him now, at least for the next a couple of hours here. And I also see Jack and Al they're waiting for you there. So Manoj will be moderating this session. Manoj, as I said, has also worked quite a bit on SDR and has also been very active, although his job takes him off the ground most often than not. So welcome to you, Manoj. Over to you there.
Okay, good evening. Thank you very much for the very kind introduction there, Shankar. And good evening to everybody there. Madhu, thank you very much. I hope I'm audible.
Absolutely, 5.9+.
Okay, thank you very much. So good evening, everybody. Good evening and welcome once again to this wonderful roundtable now. And just a very brief introduction from my side. I'm Manoj, as Shankar said, VU2CPL. I'm based in Bangalore. And currently I'm working. Actually, I'm out of station, and today happened to be a day when I had some free time, and I'm quite glad to join the discussion and to listen to the very, very renowned personalities, Jack and Al themselves. Thank you very much for this opportunity, wonderful opportunity, to all the organizing committee of Hamfest India 2021. Good evening, good morning to you, Jack, and good morning to you, Al. Warm welcome to Hamfest India 2021. It's a great pleasure and an honor from our side to welcome you to this discussion. Short word about Jack and Al. They are pretty famous. I'm sure, like anyone who is interested in SDR and homebrewing definitely would have seen at least one of their projects. And Jack Whiskey Tango Echo Echo is a very senior person, 1943 born, 1954 onwards. He is a licensed amateur radio operator, and he's currently the vice president of the Milford Amateur Radio Club, and he is also a part of the Greater Cincinnati Builders Group. Quarterly columnist for CQ magazine, and the profession-wise, he is a retired professor. He's retired from the Purdum University College of Technology, and he has co-authored quite a lot of books and articles. I'm sure anyone who has seen QST and CQ magazine, I'm sure the name is extremely familiar. And this is particularly on programming, and he is interest is specifically about microprocessors which are used in amateur radio. So that's a wonderful combination of two skills. And Jack, it's a great pleasure to have you on board here with us, and a warm welcome to you. And Al, again, one more very famous personality, I should say, Alpha Charlie 8 Golf Yankee. Even though a latecomer from what I've read about yourself on amateur radio, the licensed amateur radio scene, I've seen that he's been a very keen electronics enthusiast right from his early days, from his childhood, and he's licensed in 2010, and he is as Jack has put it somewhere, the E&D person behind all the projects, and Jack contributes with the software part of all the projects. So without wasting much time, I would like to invite Jack, and Jack can bring in Al as well, and then take us on to this wonderful discussion on the software-defined radio. Over to you, Jack.
Okay, are we okay now? Can you hear us?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes,
please go ahead.
Okay. This is Al. Al's the EE brains behind almost everything that we do. And so what we're going to do is go through a little slide presentation, and then at the end we'll have an actual video of our project. So what we're going to talk about today, well, first of all, we need to turn on the, can you see the slideshow?
Not yet.
Okay, I think you need to.
Karthik, I'll just a sec. Karthik, can you enable them to share their screen, please?
Screen.
Yeah. Let me come down here, share screen, okay. Okay. You've disabled the share screen sharing. You have to turn that on for me.
Yeah, we'll do that. Karthik, my colleague is at it.
Okay.
Karthik?
Sir, I'm doing 1 minute, sir.
Just make him the host, Karthik. I think
Yeah,
that
sir, I have
should.
done. Albert, can you please check?
Can you check, sir, Albert?
Okay, I'll check let's see, one. Should be on. Okay, one. So share screen. And screen one. Select the screen. Huh, oh, I see. Yeah, I've got to turn it on. Never mind. There. Can you see it now? Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet. Oh, yes.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Coming up.
Very good. All right. Let me make it full screen now. There we go. All right. And I'll turn on the slideshow. Jack?
Okay. Al and I have been working on this software-defined radio project for almost 2 years. 2 years now. And first thing that we wanted to do, if you'll notice, we've done SDT, not SDR. And there's a reason for doing that. We're calling it a software-defined transceiver, and it's not just an artificial distinction. It's a very real one to us. Most SDRs that most people are familiar with are receive-only devices. And obviously, we're interested in one that can do more than that. And they range in price from very cheap, $10. I've seen some actually for less, to up to things like SDR Play, which are several $100s. And they are very, very good devices. The problem is that they are receive only, and that's not what we're really interested in. So software-defined radio then is just the receive only devices. We're interested in both receiving and transmitting. So most commercial rigs now have gone to an SDR background, and there's a number of reasons why they're doing that. The real driver behind all of this is cost, of course. You can replace a lot of hardware components with software, which is very inexpensive to implement, and it's very inexpensive to change. And it's the change aspects of it that really drives all of this. The other thing that you can do is you can improve the feature set over time. There are a number of SDR radios out there now, micro SDR, the SDR project done by Keith, a bunch of other ones. And some of those are still using the Arduino 328 family. One programmer named Guido is really just a software genius, and he's managed to shoehorn all kinds of features in the limited resource depth of the 328. We're not that smart, so we've gone to a more powerful processor. Our design goals were a 5-band high-frequency software-defined transceiver that does 80, 40, 20, 15, and 10. You'll notice we're missing some of the bands that are permissible, at least in the United States, for other frequencies. But this is a big enough elephant to chew, so that's what we're sticking with right now. It does both single sideband and CW. It can receive AM, and quite honestly, the software is based on the convolution SDR, which also supported other modes like RTTY, but Al and I aren't set up to do RTTY, so we kind of stripped that out. We're calling this a fuzzy QRP. And the reason we're calling it that is because you can select the power level you wish to use from 1 to 20 watts of power out. And quite honestly, there are just times when 5 watts doesn't get it. So to have the other 15 watts in the bag if you need it, sometimes makes all the difference in the world. I've worked the past 2 field days in the United States running 15 watts on single sideband, and have managed to work almost all of the continental United States And I've also made some contacts with Portugal, France, and Spain. The other thing that we had as a design goal, and this was one that we think was kind of irritating if you're trying to go to a park or a soda activation or something like that. We don't want to drag along a PC or a laptop or a tablet to have the visual display of the radio aspect of the transceiver. So we want the whole thing self-contained in one box. No external laptop, PC, or other computing power. We want the rig to be trunk portable. And what we mean by that is this is not something that you're going to put in your backpack and walk up an 8,000-foot mountain. You could do it, but you better be an Olympic athlete because this thing's going to.
Mainly because of the batteries.
The batteries to power a 20-watt rig are going to be fairly substantial. If you're running less power, okay, a little bit lighter. But we think that even with the heat sink and a reasonable battery, it's going to be around 10 pounds. For soda activations, doesn't sound like much, but that's actually a pretty heavy load to carry. The last goal that we had was we wanted to try and bring it in at reasonable cost. And what is reasonable cost? Well, it depends on the feature set. And I think when you finish listening to this presentation, you'll realize that we have features that even some of the high price spreads don't have. So to us, the goal was to keep everything under $200. And we wanted it to be easily assembled. And more importantly, we wanted it to be one like Farhan has done with the MicroBitX and the BitX series, where people can hack it. So all of this will be open source, both hardware and software. And we have designed it as a series of 7 boards that if you're not happy with our power amplifier, you can pull ours out and put yours in. So that reasonable cost also includes a lot of experimenting ability that goes along with it. And then, like I said, everything will be open source. We're in the discussion right now with a company that is talking about doing this kit. They think that they can bring the kit in for around $200 to $220. And they will have all of the SMD devices on the boards. So it will be like Farhan's MicroBitX, which I call a semi-kit. In other words, you're going to run wires from a volume control to the main board and so forth. So we're hoping that gets pulled off, and it will make it easier for people who have difficulty getting parts to get everything in one stop. This is the main display screen. And unfortunately, my mouse, I don't think the mouse works. Can you see the mouse move or not?
Yes, sir. It's visible.
Okay, good. Well, it didn't work last time. Okay, up here we call it the T41, and the reason that we're calling it that, actually we're calling it the T41 EP, and the EP stands for Experimenter's Platform. The T41 refers to the Teensy 4.1 microcontroller, which is a real workhorse. Right now, this says that we're on version 79 of the software, so this is pretty old. Al and I just have been working on version 131, so that kind of tells you where we are. This over here is the main frequency display. It's what we call VFO-A. Over here is VFO-B. So we have 2 VFOs, and you can switch very easily between those. This is the standard S meter that you're used to seeing. This is a reading from that S meter. This is the typical spectrum display that you're used to seeing, and this is the typical waterfall display. Something that's a little different, the center line is the frequency that you're listening to. So we've got 192 listening to, and down here you can see 192 as well. This red line that you see sort of offset from the center frequency is the fast tune frequency. Fast tune is controlled by its own volume or its own rotary encoder. And with about two turns, you can cover the entire 40-meter band. And you can do that without changing the increment. So this thing is always there. The increment is currently set to 50 down here. And I was probably dinking around with this, and I had it set to 50 because I hadn't changed it since I was last on the CW bands. So this whole box down here in the lower right is called the information box. This up here, the spectrum display, the fast tune will move up and down, allows you to change frequency. When you change frequency, the center line stays the same, but the frequency numbers change. In other words, this is always centered on the frequency, and it's the bottom line that will move. Over here, this is an audio plot of the signal that we're currently listening to. And I can tell just by looking at this that it's a male voice because most of the spectrum is concentrated in the lower frequencies. And you'll notice this audio filter is set at 3.2 kilohertz. So we're listening to sideband. And if you go up here, you'll see that we're listening to with a filter that is minus, well, it's 3.2 kilohertz in bandwidth, and it's minus because we're on lower sideband. We're sampling at 192 samples per second. This is real time. This will bounce up and down in real time. And there is an encoder dedicated to this filter, and you can move this up or down in real time up to 6K, and you can get it down for CW down to 100 hertz if you wanted to. So that is a real-time adjustment into the audio bandpass that you have to work with. This is the standard waterfall display that you've all seen. Down here, we have two things called temp and load. Those are actually debug statements. We are monitoring the temperature of the CPU to try, at this time when we were doing version 79, we were trying to determine whether it would be necessary to have a fan or not for the CPU. And if this would go above, I think it was 55 degrees, lights, bells, and fire department was called. All kinds of interesting things happened. Whoops. Okay. The load number, yeah, let me get that out of the way. The load number is how much of the CPU computing power we're actually using. And version 79 was about 11,000 lines of C code. And we're using 13% of the processor's power to process the entire system. And all of these are changing, of course, in real time. The information box over here, I have the volume set to 100. Don't ask me why I've got it up that high, but I did when we took the picture. The increment 50 notch was for the notch filter. Noise is for the noise filter. Zoom is an interesting feature because it allows you to zoom in. In other words, you can change the zoom factor and this scale of frequency. Like right now, we're showing from 7144 up to 7244. So we're showing 100 kilohertz slice of the band. We can change that to 1/16 of that.
You can also go to 200 kilohertz, roughly 192 kilohertz for the full band. The problem with that is the resolution goes down, so it's a little hard to see things. So we tend to use the 100 kilohertz slice, but you can do twice that.
We also have compression, mic compression built into it. There's a built-in keyer. I've currently got that set for 15 words per minute. There's also a decoder. I'm actually still working on that. It works, but it's not as good as I would hope it is. So I'm shooting for a better decoder. But when the decoder is running, the decoded Morse scrolls across where you see these debug statements down here for temp and load. So if you're listening to a CW station, it will scroll across the bottom down here. The keyer is limited to, I think it's 5 to 60 words a minute. If you can do more than 60 words per minute, you're way, way above me. The AGC, there's an automatic gain control. Right now, it's white, which tells me that this is active. If it were not active, if you turn the AGC off, this would be gray. And if the AGC kicks in, the AGC letters turn to red. So that's pretty much what you see on the display. This, well, before I leave it, this sort of blank space at the top of the screen is for the on-screen menus that we do have. We're not using a lot of those. I'll have more to say about that in a few moments. Okay. Our objectives for the architecture, we're trying as much as possible to move all of the functionality into the software. And the reason, of course, is it's just simpler to do any kind of enhancements or changes. Take over. Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to let Al, he's the double E guy.
We use a quadrature sampling method for the front end. As you know, SDR can be implemented in a couple of different ways. You can use a direct sample hardware, which you sample at a very high rate. The problem for a low-cost receiver is the chips that can do real-time sampling of RF in the megahertz range are pretty prohibitively expensive. So we've opted for a lower cost using the TALO quadrature sampling situation. And this allows us to get up to 192 kilohertz bandwidth, which reasonably priced ADCs. It's low cost, low insertion loss, and it's easy to implement. Most of the functions that you see on the screen that Jack was talking about are DSP functions, digital software processing. And we do that
digital
signal processing. We do that to allow a lot of flexibility in what we do. We do a lot of it in the frequency domain convolution to avoid CPU intensive time domain calculations. This allows us to get very sharp audio filters. They're almost brick wall. They're very, very steep. We use an ADC that allows us 192 kilohertz wide spectrum, which for the ham bands is most of them is perfect. And we've opted to go with the major functions that we have on the screen, such as menu, the bands up and down, selecting the filter type, demodulation, and so on, to be accessed using user-friendly push buttons on the front panel. And as Jack mentioned before, everything is modular, both software and hardware. This is a block diagram of the receive processes. I'm not going to go through this in detail, but I wanted to show this to you so that you see the parts that are in yellow are the portions of the receiver that are in software, and the stuff outside that is still hardware. So you can see we have band filters, the quadrature sampling detector, and on the output we have the audio stages all in regular hardware, but the rest of it, including the Zoom FFTs, display graphics, complex FFT convolution, and so on, are all done in software. So that allows us to change things and to add things, and allows the user to add things as well. The transmit process is very similar. In this case, everything from here on down to here is all done in software. We use a phasing method to get SSB. There's a similar kind of a plot for the CW, which I won't bore you with at this point. But we have various different filters, the Hilbert transforms, and so on, all in software. The output then is done somewhat in hardware, and we have a power amp that I'll talk about a little later. To give you an idea of what it will do, this, for instance, is plot of the USB bandwidth from the system using the exciter board out to the power amp. And we have a bandwidth here of about 200 kilohertz. And you see it's pretty, about 6 kilohertz. And you see it's pretty flat. What we've done here is we've actually modulated the signal with an input and swept it to get the band that we have. The LSB looks pretty much the same. Of course, it's down here. Also note that the lower side band is suppressed, as is the carrier. And these are 10 dB. So we're getting about a 40 to 50 dB suppression of the carrier and more than that on the other side band. So the exciter works pretty nicely. We also have a set of transmit low pass filters. These are high performance 7-element Butterworth filters that we've modified slightly to get better second harmonic reduction. These are still analog filters, but they're tuned for our particular application. And we'll manage the 20 watts plus with no problem. It's possible to use an alternative to these filters that we have designed, and that is the QRP Labs low pass filter kits. These are very popular. They plug into our filter module PC board. And for those of you that have the filter kits already that Hans Summers has provided, you can use those. Our mode switching between transmit and receive is done electronically using pin diodes. So in the mode switching, there are no relays. The switching is very fast. Turn on is less than a millisecond. Turn off is much less than a millisecond. And we get very good isolation, certainly better than 60 dB. So we're very happy with this filter board. This is an example of our experimentation with the filters. And this shows the 40-meter response for 3 different cases. We tried an original Butterworth filter. That's this line right here. These were designed with the ARSI program, which is a free software that's out there that allows you to design various different filters with different element numbers. We're using 7 elements in ours, which is the maximum that the program handles, and it's plenty good enough for what we need. This shows.
Let me interrupt here.
Sure enough.
I forgot to mention that Al and I are also writing a book together for this particular piece of equipment. And we have 18 chapters in it that literally has a chapter devoted to each of the major blocks. And so from antenna to earphones, we have a chapter devoted to a discussion of the literature, the current literature in that field, why we selected what we did, and then a discussion of the actual implementation of it in the hardware
and software.
And all of that will go entirely through the book that way. We also have a chapter that Al thought up was called, or is called, Just Build It. In other words, we think that the book, when we're done, can almost be used as a textbook. But we also know that there will be people who buy the book that could care less about that. And so they want to just get to the building of it. So we have a chapter called Build It, where you can skip to it and just build, have directions for building the T41. And then it ends with a chapter on enhancements. I already have a lot of things that I would like to add to this radio. And I should point out that right now, despite everything that we've implemented, we're using less than 3% of the memory resources of the Teensy. So if you're into software, hardware, fiddling around, you got a lot of resources in that pool at your disposal. Go ahead.
Well, just carrying on. So we tried the regular Butterworth filters. We compared it to a regular Chebyshev filter. And then we came across a paper that was done a while back that indicated how you might improve the Butterworth filters by adding a single capacitor to the center inductor and really cut the response at the second harmonic down to almost nothing. So you see, this is a measured response, and we're getting, with the modified filter, about 75 dB reduction of the second harmonic. We opted to go with this modified version of the filter, and that will be in there for all of the different bands. We talked about the electronic mode switching. This is a simple diagram of what's in it. It's a little bit more complex than this, but basically there are electronic switches between the input to the receiver and from the exciter into the antenna. Now, the two parts of it that are a little bit critical here are the transmit switch from the power amplifier out to the filters, and the receive switch over here, which turns off everything when you're in the transmit mode. Those are where the pin diodes are. And we're using back-to-back pin diodes in one of the areas to give us the high isolation and fast switching. The power amplifier is better than 20 watts on SSB on most of the bands. Uses inexpensive MOSFETs, the IRF 510s, which are less than $1 a piece. We're using 25 volts on the finals. The IFR 510s work better at a slightly higher frequency. To do this, we use a boost supply that takes our 12 volt input and moves it up to 25 volts. These boost supplies are readily available on the internet, and they cost about $10 or $12 each for a 200 watt boost supply. So it works nicely there. We've included a couple of other features that you generally don't find on inexpensive power amplifiers, and that is thermal protection. So there's temperature compensation to prevent the MOSFETs from going into thermal runaway. And we have current limiting, so we limit the current to the finals to about 4 amps. This is a measured max power per band for our power amplifier. I said it was better than 20 watts. Well, for a short term on the heatsink that we have, you can get 35 watts. I wouldn't like to run this continuously with the heatsink because it gets pretty darn toasty. But on 80 and 40, you can get 35 watts, and the spurious emissions are less than 43 dB, which is the USF FCC rule on spurious emissions. On that same criterion, 20 meters gets 25 watts, 15 about 20, and unfortunately, because the IFRs kind of run out of steam at the high frequencies, you're only down to 11 watts on 10 meters. But we do have 10 meter output, and it's pretty decent. To give you an example of what the spectrum looks like, this is 25 watts at 7 megahertz. Well, here's the fundamental, and this is the second harmonic, which is down more than 50 dB, and the third harmonic over here is about minus 44 dB. So it's even at 25 watts better than the requirements. The second harmonic is typically lower because we use a push-pull configuration for the output, which tends to suppress the even-ordered harmonics. Jack, I'll let you go on to the packaging.
Okay. The packaging is going to be, like I said, 7 printed circuit boards. By design, we made all of those less than 100 by 100 because almost all of the printed circuit board houses have specials where you can buy 5 boards for $1 or something like that. It's just ridiculously cheap. So the packaging of the actual circuitry is on small boards, and those are interconnected with SMA connectors for the most part.
I don't know if you're looking at the small, but this is a typical board. This one is the filter board. It's 100 by 100 millimeters.
And then this is the board that actually holds the toroids that plugs into the one that Al just was holding up. So Hans's filter boards actually can plug into this if you wanted to, but most people, if they have Hans's filters, they would leave this board out and plug directly into the one that Al was holding up. Okay, so the packaging lends itself to portable, but like I said, it's going to be reasonably heavy, especially with a battery pack. So that's why we came up with the term trunk portable. It has to be large enough for a 20-watt heat sink, and we found one that works very well. That is, I don't know if we have one handy here, but
I can show you the.
Yeah, Al's got the.
This is the power amplifier, and here's the heatsink on the back. It's a commercial one I found on eBay. This is the boost module right there. So it takes any input up to 30 volts and gives you out your 25 volts on the other end at up to about 4 or 5 amps.
I didn't have a heat sink, so I used my car's bumper. I mentioned the size of the boards. There's lots of room on each board. There's all kinds of test points on the boards where we can let you hook on a voltmeter and check the voltages and so forth. And then there's enough space that if you wanted to add discrete components, even those with leaded through hole type components, you could do that. Oh, I should also mention that the SMDs, we're using surface mounted devices instead of through hole, but they're all 1206, which is the largest size of SMDs. And like I said, the company that we're in conversation with is going to mount all of the SMDs anyway, so that may be a moot point. You can easily replace any one of those 7 boards if you have a better design. We think that this might be the way that we will do our first real breadboard. You can see up here in the corner, I'm going to be using a 5-inch display. Al's going to be using a 7-inch, and we have one beta tester who's going to be using a 9-inch. So this is a tentative layout. This over here is unusual. Farhan elected to use a touchscreen for his microBitX, and there's also a touchscreen on the micro SDR. And we're not using that. We are using basically push button switches. And the reason is that even with the heat sink and everything, if you start jabbing at the display touchscreen, these big old mitts right here aren't designed for delicate poking around on a screen. So when I go poking on a display screen, I find that my radio tends to walk off the back of the table. So what I do instead is we decided to go with a push button display, and I can take my right hand, put it on top of the radio, and with my thumb, I can press any one of those 16 buttons. There's an article, by the way, those 16 buttons, a lot of people would just dedicate 16 pins, and the Teensy has 51 pins, so it's not like you're going to run out of everything. But Al's bringing up the display.
So here's the, we can get it oriented correctly. There we go. There's the front panel of the current one.
Here's the push button.
Push buttons over there.
And I can do that with one hand, which I kind of like. And the other thing is we are not chewing up 16 pins for this switch. And in fact, we only use one IO pin for all 16 of these switches. And the November issue that just came out a couple of days ago of CQ Magazine presents the software of how we did the 16 switches on a single analog pin. And as you probably have already guessed, it's just a voltage divider. But it works incredibly well, and it does free up resources that we can use otherwise. This button is menu plus, and right below it is menu minus. And if I do that, remember I pointed up the 2 slots at the top of the display, and I said that those are reserved for the primary and secondary menus. Well, that's what these 2 buttons do. They allow you to scroll up and down through the menu, and this encoder over here can be used for, depending on which menu you select, you might have to use this menu encoder to change the value. For example, if you scroll to CW, one of the fields in there is keyer speed. And if you select that with the select button, which is right here, then you use the menu button to set the code speed from 5 to 60 words per minute. So we've put all of the most often used menu items right on the front panel. There's no scrolling through menus. You just boom, you're there and you're done. And right now there are 3 unused menus down at the bottom. This is the zoom that we talked about, and the step is the increment and
tuning increment.
A tuning increment, and it's very easy. This is the fast tune. Remember the little red line that I showed you? This is the fast tune. This is the regular tune, and this is for messing around with the filters. This is not etched in stone. You can obviously change this to whatever you want. I get irritated. I have a Flex 6400. It just ticks me off that I have to go to the back of the radio if I want to plug in a different key or change the push to talk or mic connection. So I said, enough of that. I'm putting it all in the front, which I did, and the power switch. If you like it on the back, put it on the back.
Or you can duplicate it.
Or duplicate it, whatever you want to do. Obviously, the RF in and out is all on the back, the ground connection. So that's a tentative design. Looking down on the radio, like, is that loose? You can see how there's boards in there. This is the filter board over here that Al was showing you, and you can see all the toroids in there. So this picture on the screen is sort of the way we laid it out. Again, nothing etched in stone, but it gives you an idea of how we envision all of this going together. Down here, he does have a cooling fan, a little tiny guy about this big, but it keeps that CPU nice and cool without worrying about any kind of thermal issues. This is a picture of what we just held up. Like I said, the select button is right here. If I put my hand on the top of the rig, I can use my thumb and I can access any one of those.
You actually don't need to do that. I've got rubber feet on the bottom of it. And you press it.
Well, it's the switches are soft enough that you don't even have to hold it. There's enough mass in the radio to activate the switches. Push touchscreen, not so sure.
Now, one thing about the touchscreen, we've made provision on here, not in the software, but in the hardware, so that if somebody wants to use this version of this screen as a touchscreen, you can do that. You just have to implement the software to make it happen. So that, you know, it's ready for experimentation. That's where the EP comes in.
Okay. This is another downward looking shot here.
I just explained what we got here. This is the power supply. This gives you 12, 3, and 3.3 and 5 volts. The main board, which has the teensy and the DACs.
Show them the fan there too.
Yeah, and there's a little fan right here. This is the receive board. It has a preamp, a software actuated attenuator, and the QSD. This is the excite board, and this are the filters. The power amp is over here. I haven't mounted it vertically as I probably would in a case. And this is the boost supply, which could go right over here in this side. You can see the connections are all by ribbon cable. We have IDC connectors on all the boards to allow you to interconnect things, including the power. And we use SMA connectors for the RF signals. You can, if you wish, just direct solder onto the boards if you don't want to use the SMA cables. The interconnects between the audio are with audio cables, and there are plugins for all of those. Front panel, you see here, this is the switch to the leads to the switch panel, and there are only 3 leads. There's a plus 3.3 ground, and the output from the voltage divider ladder. Now at this point, what we have is a demo, and we've recorded this, so I'll narrate it as we go along. We've actually done on-air testing of the receive portions of this, and you'll get a chance to see what happens. Right now we're in the receive mode, and you can see the display is active.
Point out with the yellow line.
This yellow line is the bandwidth. Well, I get it over here. This is the bandwidth that you see over here, the 3.32 kilohertz. I'll show you changing the filters in a couple of minutes. I've pressed the menu button at this point. You can see I brought up the AGC, and I can change the characteristics of the AGC.
We're using the menu plus and menu minus at this point.
And we're going on. Now we got a signal. And you can hear it in the background there. I'm changing various things in the menu again to show you what's there. Nuts. What happened? Did I run out of time?
Shankar?
Hey, no. Perhaps that was the last slide, I suppose.
Yeah. Okay, let me go back to it because I wasn't
Yeah.
finished yet. If you don't mind.
Yeah, sure.
Let's see. I don't know if we can fast forward. Yes. So again, we're going through the menus. And we're doing that by pressing the various buttons. This just has a little bit to go. I'll demonstrate a signal here in a couple of minutes.
Meanwhile, just follow the bumpy line.
I'm tuning at this point, so I'm tuning in a signal. And there you get it. And you can see the audio spectrum changes as the audio does. You can get a view of what's going on with the audio. Now, in a minute here, I hope to show you the fast tune. This line would be moving back and forth.
There
I guess,
goes.
yeah, there we go. So I can move it to where I want it. I press the select button. And when I press the select button, it'll move to that frequency, which you just saw. So this gives a very brief view of what the system will do. Let me go back here. I'm going to close this out. And so
you'll have to stop the sharing. Al.
Sorry?
Stop sharing. That should.
I'm trying here. Well, yes, I know. Were we off? No.
No, still it is being shared.
Yeah. Well, I've lost the screen that lets me do that. Well, anyway, I don't see it here. Let me see if I can make this larger. Nope. Are we on still? I think I've just messed it up.
Do you have any other slides to show?
No, that's all the slides.
Okay, then probably we'll just take the questions. Then let it be like this. I think it's pretty much fine. Jack and Al, thank you very much. That was an excellent presentation, and I have some questions.
Yes, please.
Which are being posted on YouTube as well as on the chat box as well. So anyone if you have any questions, please do send it on the chat box or even on the YouTube on the public chat, live chat, you can put it in, and we'll pass it on to Jack and Al. So the first question is from Space Ghost. He's asking how many slices can we run, and can it run remote?
It's designed to run just a single slice right now. I don't know what it would take to do a second slice.
Well, you'd have to have another front end, another quadrature sampling detector at the front end. And while the CPU has the horsepower to handle it, we've elected not to do that in this particular version. But that's something that could be very easily be done by adding a second QSD board.
As far as the remote issue goes, the software right now doesn't even have cat control in it. My feeling is that when I get to that stage, I can probably implement cat control using the standard TRS protocol. That's probably a weekend project. So cat control would be easy. True remote would be a little more difficult, but I think quite doable.
You have to understand, we're talking about a $200 radio here, not a several $1,000 Flex or other high-end system. So there are limitations.
Absolutely. So the second receiver, when we talk about it, like, the second slice or whatever that is, can we do it in the same spectrum? Like you are taking 190 kilohertz. So within that same spectrum, can you get one more like a VFO A and a B?
Well, you switch back and forth between the VFO A and B, and what that does is changes the local oscillator frequency. Again, we only have one slice available to us. So by adding a second QSD board, I think it would be possible to get that. It's not something we've tried. And in the scope of the book that we're working with, we're probably not going to do that. That could be something in the enhancements or a later project after this is finished.
Okay, great. So that's for Space Ghost. I hope that answered your question there. And Nitin TYZ 3 Tango Yankee Golf wants to know whether with the present hardware, by any modifications of software, does this radio can do 2 meters and 70 centimeters?
No, well, that's not with the present hardware. That would be a function of a brand new front end on the system, or translating the frequencies down to one of the lower bands. That would be probably the easiest way to do that. We're limited on the hardware to the 30 megahertz, and I think our layout and everything else is designed within that realm. To go higher will probably take a redesign of the filter boards and certainly the QSD front end.
Yeah.
Okay, so with the current hardware, it's not possible with the present setup. Yes, okay. And Pramod, the VU2 Tango Papa wants to ask a question. Why not use 12-volt Mitsubishi transistors instead of the IRF 510s?
Well, that's a really good question, and I intend to do that. And principally, it's a matter of cost. The IFR 510s are very inexpensive, and for an experimenter who is working with this thing and with these MOSFETs that tend to be somewhat delicate, you can blow the front end by slipping your probe in the wrong spot when you're making measurements, and you've just shot anywhere from $15 to $20 pair, each pair of finals. So I prefer to do all of the experimentation with the cheap ones. when I'm finished with this, I intend to use some of the Mitsubishi transistors. The 16s, for instance, are quite capable of putting out the 20 watts that we need. They're a little bit pricey compared to this, but once we've debugged it, now the power voltage capabilities for the Mitsubishis has to be limited to about the 12 or 14 volts. They won't be able to manage the 25 volts, so that has to be changed as well. So you need a higher current capacity, but it's on my list of things to do.
We also selected the 510s because they're sort of the MOSFET cockroach. They're readily available, they're cheap, and if you blow one, you don't have to go out and mow another lawn to get a new one. So for right now, it works well, and it's within our design parameters. So that's kind of what we stick with. Al's more adventuresome. He's got the ability, I don't. So he'll probably do some experiments with the Mitsubishi.
Okay, great. That's great. Thank you. One question from VU3OOI, Prasanna. He has a question. What's the sensitivity of the receiver in S levels or dBm or in microvolt levels? Any measurements done?
I have not done that experiment, and I really don't have the equipment to be able to measure the ultimate front end capabilities. I have compared it, however, with my Flex 6400, and anything the Flex can hear, I can hear as well. So, I think the sensitivity is in the same range. Again, we're not talking about a $2,000 transceiver here. We're talking about a couple $100. But we have no trouble hearing the DX or any low-level signals. Most of the lower bands are limited by atmospheric noise where we are. At the higher bands, you have a possibility for some additional low-level signals, but I'm pretty satisfied with what I'm able to hear. Again, I don't have the microvolt measurement capabilities to be able to make those measurements.
Okay, great. What's the title of the book? You mentioned that you'll be writing a book. It's coming out. So
the book's almost done, and I don't know if we have a title. I think it's going to be building the T41 EP software-defined transceiver, something like that. And we're publishing it. It'll be published through Amazon. So we'll put an announcement on our website and make that available as to when the book actually appears on the shelf.
Okay, fine, great. And so where can we find the updates for this? I would put it in a different way. So
the website is named Software Controlled Ham Radio. So if you do an internet search on Software Controlled Ham Radio, our site should come up. Just join and you'll be up to date.
Okay, fine. You have any plans to make this as a kit?
Well, we are talking with a company, fairly well-known, and we think that they're going to market it as a kit, and they're shooting for a target price, which includes all the SMD devices and everything. It may not include the display because there's a option for a 9, 7, or 5-inch display, and those cost around $40. They start around $40, and I'm not so sure that the company wants to warehouse all of those displays. So my guess is it's going to come in around $200 without that display. You can build it yourself for substantially less than that, but the convenience of having all of the components on the board and so forth might be worth the extra couple of bucks.
On the subject of the boards, of course, we have all of these boards designed, and we will make the Gerbers available.
Okay.
On the site when we do that. So if you want to get together with a few friends and order numbers of the parts and order numbers of the boards, it's a pretty inexpensive way to proceed.
Okay. Okay. Nice. Great. Thank you. And just one question. I think I don't see any other questions there, so probably I'll ask that question from my side. Does it do FT8? Standalone?
Digital modes are not built in. That's a hardware issue, and it's also got something to do with pushing on the duty cycle too. It's a little higher on the.
Well, no, actually, I have tried the power amplifier at 20 watts with a 50% duty cycle for 15 minutes, and everything worked just fine. I ran out of patience at the end of 15 minutes, turning it on and off every 15 seconds. So it should do FT8 just fine. And the FT8 is another one of those things that could easily be built in as a software edition. If we get time, we'll look at it, but probably we'll go with that as being one of the enhancements that we'll suggest that people work with. But from a hardware capability, the power amplifier can handle the duty cycle. Same with CW. You can run it at 20 watts on the lower bands.
Yeah, I forgot.
No problem at all.
I forgot to mention the Teensy is capable of reading USB port type of data. There's also the Teensy 4.1 has an SD card reader built into it. So one of the enhancements that I'm going to work on when I get done with the basics is I'm going to write a logging program that will put out an ADIF file. And I think on CW, I can actually parse the other person's call using my decoder, or using when you do your part of the exchange and you send their call, I can record that. Date and time clock is already built into the processor. So all of the information I need for logging is really there. Write it out to the SD card. And then when you get home, plug into the USB port, read the ADIF file and submit it to a roller, wherever. So there's all kinds of enhancements that I would like to put on this. But right now, our goal is to get it out the door.
All right. Okay, that's great. I think any more questions, please? I think Surya had asked the keyword search is leading to some other group. So the keyword is actually software controlled ham radio, not software defined ham radio. So probably that will be
software
controlled ham radio. Yeah. So
we have a lot of projects that aren't radio related, really.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. Any more questions? Anybody wants to ask anything? We'll pass on to Jack and Al. If there is nothing, probably I think we'll conclude the discussion.
Well, thank you all for your attention.
Yeah, we appreciate it. We're looking forward to getting this out there and having people starting to play with it.
Okay, great. So I don't see any further questions there. So Jack and Al, thank you very much from on behalf of all the viewers, both here on this platform as well as on YouTube, and from the organizing committee of Hamfest 2021. I'd like to thank both of you for spending a lot of your precious time and to explain to us the nitty-gritties of your new project. It's excellent and it's very interesting. I'm also not an expert on homebrewing, but definitely would like to try out a few things. So definitely when it comes out, we'll give it a try. I had tried the QCX, so I can see some remnants of QCX and QDX there. So probably I can relate to some part of it. So probably will be able to enjoy building it myself, just like many of our friends here, Jack and Al. Thank you very much once again. Have a great day. And
Thanks,
Madhu
everyone.
and Shankar.
Appreciate it.
Yep. Okay.
Back to you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Albert. Thank you, Jack. It's been a pleasure talking to both of you. For your information, we have 37 viewers on YouTube and 55 on the Zoom direct link.
Very good. Thanks again, people.
Bye now.
Shankar, go ahead. Shankar, all yours.
Yeah, okay. Thanks, Jack and Alan, for great presentation and the kind of work that you have been doing on the transceiver. And as Manoj said, we'll certainly put our hands and mind into it and try to dig out whatever best can be done. That's the very spirit of amateur radio, all about, all across the world. And so on behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to thank both Jack and Alan, and of course, thank Manoj VU2 Charlie Papa Lima for having taken his time off and moderating the session. And thanks, Manoj, great moderation. And before I end this, I have a couple of things that I would like to say. I would like to thank my colleague Karthik here, who had been with me all around and helping me out, organizing the whole thing. Karthik, you have done a great job, Karthik. Thanks very much. I think probably I'll disturb you tomorrow also there, Karthik. And also I should really thank my company, Excelsoft, for giving access to this Zoom license, the corporate license of Zoom, where we are using it uninterrupted without any interruptions of 30 minutes or anything. So I'd like to thank both of them. Certainly, thanks goes on to all the hands who made it today to this amazing 100 years of amateur radio event. Tomorrow, great lineup once again, a round table of the repeater custodians of India. Sarvanan from Mysuru, V2 Echo Tango Sierra, has some very interesting thoughts that he would like to share tomorrow. And we will also have a session on micro SDX, MAN and PE1NNZ, the guys who really did the micro SDX would be there with all of you tomorrow too. And on behalf of the organizing committee of Surya, Madhu, Sarvanan, Kesri, Ramas, and myself, I would like to thank each one of you. Have a great and a safe day, and we will certainly catch up with you tomorrow evening at 1600 hours.
73, bye all.
73, good evening.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.